staying with us on TMI this wonderful Thursday morning. Let's get right to it. We're looking at the 2019 budget proposal as presented yesterday by the Commander-in-Chief and the President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari. I'm joined by two gentlemen. The first to my immediate left is an academic and a financial expert, Dr. Shelley Ebwegbe. So good to have you on the program this morning.
You're welcome.
And next to him is a cleric and a very brilliant and articulate public affairs commentator, Pastor Phil Aroje. Thank you for coming on the program as well.
Good morning.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me.
Okay, I'm just going to begin this talk with the academic who is going to help us put the discussion quickly on the road. Dr. Ebwegbe, budgets or its presentation is beyond ceremony, isn't it? Let's begin from there.
Well, you said it all, that it's beyond ceremony. And most of us, our fears are the importance attached to budgets on one side and the after effect of budgets. They are at variance. Well, the ceremonial presentation yesterday, like a friend just said, I said it's a speech.
Okay.
That lacks the graphics, lacks the details, lacks sectorial allocations, lacks performance evaluation, lacks the releases of the previous. And these are things that determine the direction of the spending of the government. These are things that determine the well-being of the nation and the citizenry. And if these things are not captured, we just see this as just mere ceremony.
You know, it's interesting because I said it's beyond ceremony, because even the president, in the course of his speech, had acknowledged that the 2018 budget has not so far been fully implemented. In fact, it has not been implemented, at least he hinted at that, to a manner that we can say, well, is impressive. How do we not do transition, say seamless transition between budgetary years?
Yes, seamless transition budgetary year is a function of how did the budget come into being in the first instance. When the government came, our hope, the financial expert, was we're going to zero in on zero budgeting mechanism, where everything about the budget starts from the consuming units, originate from the immediate beneficiary of the figures to the ministry. But unfortunately, what we're still seeing today is the incremental type of budget. The percentage as at yesterday from the press is 36% performance. And that 36% performance is not also too far from being the recurrent components. I'm sorry to use the word. A society where truth is very scarce, or rather is not celebrated, you do more of the talking, more of the rituals, without evidences on the ground to show for it. And when there are no evidences, the people get punished for it. The performance, like you said, you see some of us will say the late passage by National Assembly is a problem, is a factor. Yes, if the National Assembly passes its 13th of March, the 13th of the next March, coming March, should be a budget cycle. But March to March should be a budget cycle. If it is past September, and September the other year should be a budget cycle.
But can we continue to switch budget cycles like that? Is that economically sensible to do?
Of course, it is not sensible at all. It is not sensible because if we have a financial year of January to December,
right,
our budget should overlap with this period. But when it is not overlapping with this is the initial error in the system, which some of us are saying. Funny, yesterday, the presentation, I was ashamed that I'm in Nigeria.
Why? Because of the hooting and all of the commotion?
All those kind of things that...
But you also have legislators who were cheering.
You see, you and I know that in a civilized climate, such things are evidences of either acceptance or refusal. Okay,
while we want to take another look at that in the bits, let me allow you a little break and come to Pastor Phil Aroje. You've seen the budget, at least in summary. What is your impression overall?
Thank you very much. First, that the budget is coming on the 19th of December
is
a failure already on its part. because I'm sure that by today, the National Assembly is going to go on recess, both for Christmas and New Year. They are not likely going to come back till about the middle of January. By the time they come back, it will be 1 month to the presidential and National Assembly election.
Right.
So you are not expecting this current 8th Assembly to work on that budget, because after the elections, which will end the governorship and House of Assembly election, which will be 2nd of March, obviously it's only very few of them that will be returning back. So I do not see this budget at all seeing the light of the day in the circle of this administration till May 29th. That's it. The budget ought to have been presented long before.
Much earlier.
Yes, much earlier, because according to the laws, our budget cycle remains January 1st to 31st December. It has not changed. So there's nothing they can do about it. It has not changed, except they want to change, which they have not been able to do. And if you watch the antecedents of this administration, the presentation of budget has always been like that, and they find one excuse or the other to blame people for that. But looking at the figures that were presented, that was presented yesterday, the total budget is 8.83 trillion naira,
Right.
which is about 300 billion naira short of 2018 budget. Of course, they have not, that budget has not performed. Maybe the figures that would have performed, the sector that would have performed is the recurrent expenditure. Maybe they have done that up to 70–80%. But the capital expenditure is still as low as 36% for 2018.
And that's not impressive, is it?
That's on paper. That's on paper, not on reality.
So you're saying there are chances it could be worse on the ground?
Of course, it's worse on ground. I'm not saying chances. The reality on ground is that it's worse. Because as I talk to you today, I live in Benin City, and I'm from Edo State here. I am not aware of any project ongoing or executed as per in 2018 budget by the federal government.
Let's look at two core elements quickly, just before you push the conversation further. The recurrent expenditure for 2019 is in the neighborhood of
2%.
Yes, about 4 trillion.
Yes.
While that of capital expenditure is about 2 trillion.
That's about the recurrent expenditure, which is
it's 4 trillion. Yes,
4 trillion.
Yes, a little in excess of 4 trillion.
Yes,
then capital is exactly capital is
50.31%.
Right,
Yes.
Capital is about just a little over 2 trillion,
which is about 22.2%.
Exactly. How do we strike a balance with that disparity?
No, you can't balance because the current is already taken half.
Okay, which means more of a priority.
Yes, the current expenditure is already taken half, and then the capital expenditure is taking about 22%.
Right.
Then the other percentage, about 26–27%, is actually for debt servicing. So what we have is 78% to 22%. And you can't develop a country like that with 22% of your budget for capital expenditure, which may never even be executed. You can't create jobs. You cannot create an enabling environment for the private sector to, if government is not spending on projects, you are just spending on salary, there is no way you can develop the economy. So obviously, this budget is dead on arrival. And adding to the fact that it's an election year, that first half of the year, actually nothing will happen, just like we saw in 2015, and then we are seeing even now. And then it's under this administration we found the lexicon like budget padding and all the rest. I wasn't surprised what happened yesterday at the National Assembly. I expected worse things to happen, because the legislators we are dealing with here are the ones who are closer to the people. Now I can leave this studio and go and meet Senator Matu Ruide, who is the senator representing us here, or E.G. Agboranima, who represents Ikpoboka where I live, or whoever. I can meet them, I can call them, I can go to their constituency office. These are the people who represent us. Let's not forget that in the build-up to the elections, the money they appropriated for constituency project was actually diverted by the federal government, by the federal government for elections.
That's environment?
Yes, environment. That took a lot of issues. And as I talk to you, none of those projects have been executed. And these are the people who come to the people, so they get the feelings of the people. They are coming home for Christmas.
But again, just yesterday, the government has said that it has released 50% of constituency allowances to this.
When will it be executed? At what time?
Maybe-
Released to who? To the contractors or to who?
That was
That's what they say.
according to the secretary to the government of the federation.
Yes.
But again,
Where is the reality of
but
ground?
again, can you help us make sense of the president saying that this budget is intended essentially to lift majority of Nigerians out of poverty?
I don't believe him.
Okay,
I don't believe him. Because by the indices, by the antecedents of the budget performance in the last 3-4 years, there's nothing that has lifted.
So you don't see the 2019 budget proposal making any difference for the better?
Because there's no performance. None of the budgets are performing to 50%. The current year, the government said 36%, and we know that the reality on ground is less than 10%. Maybe in other states, maybe in other geopolitical zone, but in my zone, in my state, in my community, there is nothing to show that, okay, let's bring it up. There is a school feeding program. Do you find any of them in Edo State? How do you take people out of poverty? There is the traders' money that they are busy sharing in the market. Have you found them in Edo State? So maybe in other parts of the country, but as far as I'm concerned here, the antecedents shows that they are not willing to do anything, and I do not believe that this budget will actually do anything. Let me land here. If a couple of weeks ago, the Edo State governor presented budget to the House of Assembly, and as at yesterday, the budget had been passed. That's how to run the government. It's been passed, and we can see around here, even if we don't know the figure, we can see practical things there. People in the local government, people in the community can see what is ongoing. What these people throw budget.
So you're talking about speed and efficiency?
Yes.
But let me come against you, Dr. Aboegbe. Borrowing is a strong factor in our budgetary process. Even the president has made that clear, even though he has said again that we have to minimize borrowing. We are going to have to borrow again. The immediate past Minister of Finance had said that Nigeria will have to borrow for the next couple of years, and there's virtually nothing we can do about that. How do you see us dealing with borrowing going forward?
I have always told people that care to listen, when you borrow with your efficiency and absorptive capacity, what I mean, you borrow for a project stock that is tied to specific projects that will speed up the development of the society. You are borrowing with a purpose. But when you are borrowing with a lot of stupidity, not defined, I weep for such a borrower, or rather the lender as well, because repayment is going to be a challenge. I think currently we are talking of 22 trillion naira debt, equivalent of $78 billion. Like Phil just alluded to, I travel the length and breadth of this nation. Funny enough, I'm not sure what I'm saying on the ground as per road construction, road justifies the quantum of money we are borrowing. Yes, I may not have a sufficient evidence because I'm not in the system. But what we say in effect is, at what point, if we use close to 30% of our annual budget to service debt, you know what it means? It means you have eaten your today the day before. And once you get to today, what will you now then eat? You are not left to starve. Of course, there is no need. We argue whether borrowing is of essence. The layman theory of finance said you borrow is even easier and cheaper to borrow, better to borrow, because the government will help you to defray the cost of borrowing through tax deductibility concept. But in this practical reality of this nation as we speak today, I think from the point of view of an accountant, from the point of view of a finance man, from the point of view of a citizen of this nation, I weep for the borrowing spree. It's painful, but only God knows how we are going to get out of it. Borrowing to do, the projects are not moving. The Lagos Rail we're talking about is 30% completion. Like I said, not too long. When a society embraces falsehood, not even God himself can deliver such.
Let's talk a bit further. There's an estimate of the exchange rate still standing at $305 officially. Then, of course, the bulk of the revenue will come from oil as usual, which again accentuates our dependency as an economy, as a people, on oil. In fact, the proposal is that it will be about 2.23 million barrels per day from oil. So the bulk of the money will come from there, of course. Again, does it raise question about the need, the urgency to diversify this economy and the possibility of doing that?
Diversifying an economy is premised on infrastructure.
Okay.
I have told people that care to listen, I am a university teacher. If I have enough money that is reasonably okay for me to enter the Orion local government where I hail from, I tell you, I will walk out of the paid job unannounced and go into agro-ally sector and their value chain. Diversifying for what? I was an informed, I started hearing diversifying from the monoculture to agro-based, agro-ally, value chain, whatever, all this. I still have difficulties in locating one. Like Phil just said, I am from Edo State, from Orion, from Ewarwe, in Bini Abraka Road. We have a lot of things that would have made this society to be self-employed. Just yesterday, I dabbled into a data set saying about 77% of Nigerians live below $3.2 per day.
That's below the poverty line.
Below, there is a way the World Bank segmented it. $1.9, the percentage was high.
Okay.
3.2, sorry to let you know that your humble friend here is within that 3.2, below it. Now, when you talk about diversifying, borrowing to diversify, I said if you borrow with a stock, borrow to start, just start it to specifics, it will make an impact. But when you borrow for just borrowing sake and keeping it into the pool, where you go there and take for this, okay, where there's a shortfall in remuneration or whatever, you go there and pay. There's agitation for this and you go there and pay this. It baffles me. Even the 2.3 million we are estimating. Currently, the price of a crude oil is $56.46, and we are saying $60. We are leveraging on the quotas, the grains that may come from OPEC. Oh, Nigeria is going through this thing. Just last year too, the same thing we had. But let us not forget that the world today are going to protectionist, nationalist. Most of the countries that determine the direction of the world today, they are looking inward. Let my own be okay. Now, if you now begin to hinge your national policy on external forces, where a sneeze can make it to be feverish, if not dead, dying, I pity the kind of society. That figure, what if there is this election year, like all of us know, an unsatisfied desire from one sector of the economy can trigger the economic recession. If that 2.3 million is not attainable at $60, what then happen? We go into what we call technical recession. Like the president just said, we are currently maintaining just out of economic growth 1.81, whatever as it were, which is still very fragile according to World Bank. But I wonder where. See, I just came from a country not too long. I have seen the model of governance. I've seen the model of economic growth. And those countries are the what people begin to say, yes, they are doing well. But they still see themselves are not doing well because why? There is a commission research on where should we now go. They discover that there is a gap, manufacturing. And they are not bringing up, they are the safest place on earth as I speak with you. They are not trying to bring in companies in this world. My brother Uyi, you cannot diversify when you have security challenges and get a result. You cannot diversify when you have the quantum of unemployed army we have today, let alone the underemployed. Our Nigerian mystery index, the mystery index of Nigeria, is worsening by the day. So if you look at all this, I said, God, help us to know where we are to go. The truth is, this nation, there are a lot of structures that we are built on, and those structures need to be reassessed.
Okay.
Even the budget itself, there are structures that is built upon, and those structures are defective. And that's the more reason why we keep on running as if we are running, we're in a state of motion, but no action to act on, no fruit. Running giga, like the men of God will always say. I don't see these things performing better than the previous years.
Okay, we're going to do further assessment of this budget, but let me come to Pastor Phil Orojo quickly again. Just yesterday, the NBS has said that at least 20.9 million Nigerians are unemployed. Obviously, that's bleak. And then again, we have the challenge of not being able to be sufficient in terms of local production. And yet we're saying we should look inwards, jack up our game, produce more, do more of exports rather than imports. In fact, we're being categorically referred to as a consumer nation. That is not piece of good news. But how do we begin to use our budgetary system as a catalyst to turn things around for the better in terms of local production and cutting down unemployment rate in this country?
Thank you very much. Let me pick it from the angle of borrowing. There's nothing wrong with borrowing, but you don't borrow to eat. You shouldn't borrow to pay salaries. You should borrow to invest.
Right.
When you borrow to invest, eventually that investment will pay both the capital and the interest back. Now, if you look at the figures that were presented yesterday, 4.03 trillion is for
recurrent.
No.
That's a recurrent.
Yeah, recurrent.
Right.
2.03
right.
trillion
for capital.
And then 2.14 trillion is for debt servicing. That's huge.
That's not a smart move, is it?
That's huge. It means that what we're going to use to develop our country, if that budget was to perform 100%, is less than what we're going to use to pay debt. So it doesn't make any sense. If you want to borrow to invest in productive venture, but with the kind of insecurity we have in this country, how are you going to diversify? The first area we can diversify into is into agriculture. The other time, Olufalaye, the former Secretary to Government of Venezuela, went to his farm in Ondo State, and he was kidnapped. Only 2 days ago, no less a person than the former Chief of Defense Staff, Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade, was assassinated or murdered on his way from his farm between Nasarawa and FCT, on his way from his farm, killed. So who will go back to the farm? That's all one. Like he mentioned, we have arable lands everywhere. But when you produce, who will buy from you? Do you even have the capacity to produce? So with the rhetorics we hear budgeting is like something we present, if we didn't present it, it's as if we didn't do anything. Actually, the government is not implementing the budget. Otherwise, you write a beautiful budget speech, but the implementation is where we have a major problem. Maybe there's no fund. Before we think of further about 2019 budget, the question I want to ask, and the question Nigerians should answer, or we should ask the government, what is the performance level of 2016, 2017, and 2018? These are 3 years budget cycle. The medium-term expenditure framework, how much has it performed? It was even a third dream and a high order, a third dream, very unambiguous, unrealistic dream, to peg the dollar, to peg the crude at $60, no, per barrel. Because as we're talking now, the price of oil is about $57 per barrel.
All the way from about 70.
Yes, it's come down to 57.
Right.
So how do you put your budget on that? It means we're going to have problem from the beginning. So let government spend on productive ventures, invest money on infrastructure. We don't have power. And in the last 3.5 years, and inside this budget, I don't know how much has been budgeted for power infrastructure. There is no power plant that is being built. How do we intend to improve power supply? Not one is being consulted. I'm not aware that the federal government or the government is constructing any refinery. How do we get out of it? Because inside this budget, there's an estimate of almost a billion naira for petroleum subsidy on daily basis. It's about 305 billion for petroleum
ultimately.
subsidy. Yes, almost a billion daily. Almost a billion naira daily. That's almost what we intend to spend on education. That's almost what we intend to spend on health. And we are spending that on petroleum subsidy. If we have refineries, we won't be wasting that resources. And of course, you'll be sure it will be more. Because I am so very convinced that after the elections, if the incumbent wins the second term, what is actually going to happen is that the price of petroleum is going to be increased. Because the vice president hinted that if they were to take away subsidy, during the debate last Friday, if they were to take away subsidy, petrol will be selling for about 220 naira. And I do not doubt that, because DPK and the AGU is already selling for about between 260 and 270 naira per liter. So where we are today is something that is not giving us a bright light at all.
He talked about structure. I talked about how that some of the structures will have to be demolished, as it were, and then rearranged. Then he basically mentioned model. Why is it so difficult for us to get it right with budgetary model in this country? It's been same old in the last several years. Why do we have that challenge?
Now, the reality of what is on ground is that I think that the people who are entrusted with the responsibility of leading do not actually do budgeting in line with the feelings of the people. In this budget, for example, I'm not aware that there's provision for example, the school feeding program. I'm not aware that there's, for example, the traders' money. So how do they intend to implement that? Eventually, money will be taken from somewhere unknown to Nigerians, and they begin to spend. That's why we'll have problem. Now, you also find in previous budgets, projects are mentioned, money appropriated for such projects, and they are never executed, and nobody comes back to tell Nigerians that, look, for so and so reason, it's on. In 2015, we heard about the coastal railway line running from Lagos through Edo, Delta, up to Calabar. This is the fourth budget. Not the foundation of that project had not been laid. It's not been laid. We look at the Benin-Auchi Road, for example. The federal government should tell us, because that project, that contract was awarded before this administration came on board. The federal government should tell us how much has been released. How much was released 2016, 2017, 2018 to the contractor. That project has not moved more than 2 kilometers since this administration. If you cannot explain that, then stop reading stories. That's why I said earlier that I wasn't surprised what happened at the National Assembly yesterday. While I do not approve of disrespecting the office of the president, but the reality on ground is that there are weeping in the land. That's the reality on ground. So the budget speeches and all the rest, beautiful speech as you can make it, but the reality is that Nigerians are hungry. We have no power supply. Let me give you another instance. How are we going to move forward as a nation to come to the power supply? Even if we have today capacity to generate 50,000 megawatts of power, the infrastructure to transmit this power cannot take more than 12,000 megawatts. The government claimed that when they came on board, they made 4,000 megawatts. Today, what do we have? Do we have more light or more darkness? It is left for Nigerians to decide. Some things, like part of the foundation he mentioned, why do we have to have national grid for power supply? Why not go and build a power plant and let it serve this community and we maintain it? Go to another community, build a power plant, let it serve. Then eventually when we have built enough, we cannot begin to link.
So you're saying we should decentralize?
Of course, a lot of things. There are so much things that is concentrated at the center. And so we're not making progress. So much power concentrated at the center. We're not making progress. Why do I have to generate electricity in Ugeli and then first take it to the national grid? The Soros state, I had a very painful statement a few days ago that actually we have a lot of power and then the discos couldn't distribute it, so we have to sell some so that it can bring a revenue for the company. I said, excuse me, you mean we have excess power that cannot be distributed? And I don't have power at home and Nigerians are crying? So we have a major problem. A lot of things should be decentralized.
Let me come to Dr. Boigbe again. You want to add to the issue of the model, because a lot of economists have said if we don't get it right with model, the kind of model we use in terms of budgeting for this country, implementation will always be a problem, and there's virtually nothing we can also do about that one.
Certainly correct, because the life itself is a model. Let me cite an instance with my immediate home. I told my wife the other day, I said, look, my budget for this December is already fully exhausted. Every other expenses that is coming without a corresponding income, we have to wait.
Okay.
The life is a model, and each of the component parts is the variable. You remove each of the variable to see the fitness. Like he just said, power. I've always told a lot of people that care to listen. Let me shock you. I was going to one country the other day. I took my power bank.
You won't need it.
And I was disgraced. I was ashamed. For the 2 weeks I spent there was no need for power bank. Now, the other day, just a desert land, is now made not even arable, greener than Africa, than Nigeria. Because we don't have the power, Ministry of Power is centralized, Ministry of Water, whatever is centralized, every other thing is there. So the model we're talking about today now, if all these things are out there and we have nationalists in our thinking and our philosophy, it will be tolerably better. But what we have today now, like I told you the other day, not until we enthrone merit in everything we do, not until we drop all those kind of a regional ethnicity, whatever, together on one line, and then think of Nigeria as a nation, as our own, we aren't ready to move. If you travel out 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you are back to your country. This is the only place we say is our own. But the problem we have is the structure. It will keep on hammering on the structure. Some of, and when I say structure, I'm not talking of the structural political actors are speaking all the amount, whatever. When they get there, they are going to say, because we know this is a matter of foundation, constitution. I'm talking of even other microstructures wherein merits is not allowed to play out. The budget we're talking about today, now, fine, is well put together as by figure. Let's assume it was wrongly put together, and you have a lot of technocrats who have national interest at heart. They will implement this thing. Like he said, school feeding, all these other things. August 28, 2017, I went to the budget office of the Federation. My institute gave me an assignment to head a group, budget discourse and economic series. I went there to find out the budget performances of the country for the past years. I was told to put up a letter, which I did in the capacity of my own as chairman and the institute. As I speak with you, I have not gotten that thing.
This 1 year down the line.
August 28, 2017. We needed those things now to assess and to evaluate the performance of 2017 budget, 2018 budget. But now, this is another 2019 budget. We don't have them. And you may ask me, where are freedom of information, whatever? You say, so far. So, my brother, the earlier all of us come together and say, look, let us go to our drawing board, our discussion forum. You see, some people say, peace, peace, peace. I am not an apostle of peace without violence. After fighting, we settle. But when there is no justice, and you think peace will come, it's elusive.
But a lot of persons have said that we can have peace if we all come to appreciate the realities we are dealing with as a people, whether it's ethnic, whether it's religious, whatever it is. But again, I was just going to talk about oil again, because in the final analysis, we're coming back to the issue of oil, gentlemen.
But before we get to the oil, let me tell you, the little child, suckling child today know that Nigeria is not working. What other consensus are we looking at? A suckling child knows that Nigeria is not working. I'm not talking of the professionals, the media. Like you all know, can you speak the fact and not get in? If you are a Nigerian, when you speak the truth and somebody begin to say, yes, for saying this thing, this is your own share. It's not the palatable share, negative, whatever. So that's why some of us are not conscious. And other countries in the world are waiting to receive the best from Nigerians, the best Nigerians into their fold. What are they needing? What they need there for? Just to come and bring me this theory you have, bring me this knowledge you have,
and add value.
And add value to the society.
Your last word in 30 seconds, Dr. Eboigbe. In 30 seconds, your last word.
My brother, the final analysis, the budget, as we said, there are no figures. It's not sufficient for us to make a position. But if what we have been doing is what we are still going to do, the budget is just programmed to achieve nothing.
Okay, your sentiments quickly, Pastor Phila Roger. What are your last words as regarding this budget proposal?
From the antecedent of the last 3 years, I do not see any magic that this budget is going to do in improving the lives of Nigerians.
Okay.
It is just rhetorics. It's been presented, but I can assure you that nobody is going to work on this budget till after April.
So election is essentially a distraction.
Of course, it's not a distraction. It's not ought to be a distraction. The government ought to have known that the election is coming, and possibly ought to have presented this budget since August.
So this coincidence is unpleasant.
Yes, unpleasant, and the government is not proactive. And I think that the government, the party in power, need to put their house in order, because they have the majority in both chambers of the National Assembly, they ought to call their men in order and take charge.
Okay, I think that's where we are leaving this first discussion on the program this morning. I've been talking with Dr. Shirley West Boegbe. He's an academic and he's also a financial expert here at the University of Benin. Thank you for coming on the program. We appreciate it. And I've also been speaking with Pastor Phila Roger. He's a brilliant public affairs analyst. He's been helping us make sense of this conversation on the program this morning. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day. We're back shortly to have our second and, of course, our last discussion on TMI this morning. Do stay with us.